Skylanders Superchargers was so close to becoming the best Skylanders game to date. It had so many good ideas which could have been great. They could have. This one was made by Vicarious Visions again, who made the weakest Skylanders game up to this point. Oh, that makes sense now. Seriously though, they could have actually pulled through and made this the best one. But unfortunately they couldn't. Anyway, back to the regular tone, and before I dive into the actual game itself, let's just establish the plot. Chaos has actually won. Trapped the three who've been here from the very start. Wait, Hugo's alive? Where was he? He just hasn't been here for a while, now he is. Anyway, Chaos has figured out a way to keep the portal lock from coming into Skylands. Okay, I know it's been like that from the very beginning, but it's so weird how more and more they seem to acknowledge the actual player in these games. Outside of the narration in the first every game, it's never really been acknowledged to the player outside of that. I just don't really know. I'm just not a fan. Hugo and the others somehow find a way to unlock the portal of power, and they let you drive to Skylands. Okay, I don't really understand, but sure. So, after you get out of prison, you have to stop Chaos from using the darkness, who has this voice.
Hey there, Chaos.
From eating Skylands. This plot is fine, but kind of uninteresting, and it feels a lot more like the loosely related fetch quests that the Giants and Swap Force had. It also might have something to do with the fact I skipped most cutscenes this time instead of watching them through. A really good thing this game does with its chapters is have checkpoints throughout them, which honestly, I think is a really great idea. Especially due to the length of these levels being consistently longer. If you're missing collectibles or don't like the start of the stage or need to quit out halfway through the stage for whatever reason, you can. Swap Force has a similar thing, but only really works as a quick save halfway through, which you aren't aware exists until you use it by accident because your game stopped working. Here it just straight up works like a checkpoint system, which is really cool. What is not really cool is how these checkpoints are considered separate chapters. If you compare this game to the others, you might think, wow, it's massive, it has 52 chapters, and you'd be about as right as anything I ever say. In reality, it only has around 13 unique chapters, which is if it had the standard chapter system like the previous games. 9 out of the 52 chapters are just these little tie-in in-betweens between the random stuff you do at the hub. Why are these considered chapters? Quite often, pretty much nothing happens besides a mandatory, hey, look at this cool thing. It's like a segment in a story-driven show being filler, and god-awful. I've said so much and I haven't talked about the gameplay. Why is that like a common thing now? It's good. It's the 5th Skylanders this game. What do you expect to make the gameplay boring? It's been the same outside of the movesets for each Skylander since Swap Force. And Swap Force just added a jump. The Skylanders control well, and my god, this game looks good compared to the other ones. This is the first HD one I played, so yeah, it looks better technically. But I will always prefer how Spyro's and Trap Team look. Yeah, it's definitely nostalgia, I'll give you that one. The toys, well, some of them could be considered lazy, but I think it's pretty cool. Every type, excluding the light and dark types, would give me a lot of questions about how the dark type works, since the darkness, the main evil force in this game, exists. Have one brand new Skylander and one old one, which may seem lazy, but the old Skylanders have essentially been overhauled. The designs have been altered a lot as well, as they have clothes now, and often their main weapon changes. Gun, for example, has gone from someone who wields a harpoon gun to a trident, which honestly, I think is a pretty good idea. Coming up with so many unique designs, especially on a yearly basis, is insane. I have no clue how Pokemon hasn't run out of ideas. Mostly, hey, don't slander my favorite. Oh my god. They also done some cool stuff with the bases, as in just Grunt with the jetpack water fusing with the base, which is sick. If you have the Nintendo versions of these games, you get a special Bowser and Donkey Kong Skylander, which can also work as an amiibo, which is honestly the coolest thing Skylanders has done. The fact they were able to put in both in one figure by just switching this little thing on the base is cool. They look pretty good in the art style. Donkey Kong came with Superchargers on Wii U, and Bowser came with Superchargers with racing on the Wii. Oh yeah! This game adds vehicles. The vehicles! Expect me to ramble about these for the next 10 minutes because I have a lot to say about them. You have 3 types of vehicles: land, sea, and sky vehicles, and for some reason they are locked behind specific types. Land vehicles can only be used by tech, fire, ground, and the undead. Sea can only be used by water, Big Shock, and Magic, while Sky can only be air, okay that one's actually really shocking, or life. As you can hopefully see, land vehicles vastly outweigh the other two, which does make some sense. Since the main vehicle you get with each game, which is required to play the game, is land one, it makes sense that the most used vehicle is land. It's still kinda dumb. I think they should have been greedy because at least it would have balanced out the game a bit more and made more options for the other two vehicles. You do have the line dark types balance it out, but they're like $80. Ignore that. It's better than... oh my god. I don't need it. Yeah, I bought it. It would be insane if I didn't. $300 well spent. Don't question where the trophy is. Now back from that very great usage of my... wait. I got scammed? This isn't Snuggles. It's some impersonator called Trigger Happy. Okay, for realsies now, back to the vehicles. Each vehicle can be modified with different parts you collect throughout their section, which surprisingly often corresponds with the vehicle you're using at that specific point in time, which is pretty cool. What isn't is the modifications. I personally am just not a fan of how the mods work in this game. They sort of break the illusion a bit, because when you put for some reason Air Cooper Clown Car on the pool, it shows the Bowser head, and it just kind of ruins the immersion. Like, I know that the immersion isn't a big part, but it just really annoys me that what's on the TV doesn't look like what's on the portal. This caused me to not experiment with them and just use a normal thing because the correlation between both of them outside of very minor changes, which don't change the model quite a lot, like the hats. I'm fine with hats because they're a lot more minor aesthetic, and the main Skylander design still colorates. And like the hats, the mods give you stat bonuses and maybe some stat defects when you swap them out. I personally think it would have been really cool if they made it so you could switch around the car parts themselves, like on the Skylander vehicle. It would have been so cool if for the Donkey Kong car you could use the fake Snuggles wheels and fuse them together. And it would have just been so cool being able to physically make the car yourself and see it in game. There might be some things that would have to work around, like design limitations and making sure they don't all feel and look the same. And also the fact that there is a racing mode and you might want that to not be incredibly unbalanced. Who the hell is playing Skylanders Superchargers Racing 9 years later? Oh god, this game is 9 years old. Wait a minute. That means I'm 11? What? Anyway, the base of the vehicles can still contribute like 70% of the stats, and the other mods could add like 15% each, so then you aren't completely outclassed. Now, a slight issue / downgrade is the fact that vehicles won't be able to play as, like, well, toys, which is fine. I don't know many people who are going to use these outside of the Skylanders game, except for... and there will also need to be more similar design between vehicles, which, while true, could still lead to some creative designing, such as the fact you can buy any vehicle with, like, 2 wheels, and they could have, like, a little magnetic axle which sticks onto the plate, and in theory that should allow it to connect to any sort of vehicle, even ones with singular wheels. This concept would have been a step up from Swap Force, because in theory every vehicle would have 2 mods like they do in game, compared to Swap Force's 1 connection point thing. Now, some might be a bit more difficult to figure out, like for flying vehicles you'd probably have to completely change them with like the black back wing instead, because one of them, for at least Clown Koopa Bowser, is the plate itself, which just won't work. So I'm not sure about flying, but I can really see it working with the land and sea vehicles. Now they play, I'm gonna order them in least eligible to the most eligible. So we'll start with sky vehicles, which are by far the worst vehicle in the game, to the point I start to skip the mission because they are boring, unfun, and how much I feel like they drag. In flying missions, you're given an objective in an arena, or whatever you'd call this, in which you have to complete, which sounds fine enough, but are a pain due to how the gameplay is styled. I genuinely think it's just a me thing, but I dislike how this open area shooter style of gameplay. I find it annoying to properly get in the right direction and deal constant damage, and I found for beefier targets running into them was more convenient, because if you stay still and aim you're very likely to get hit by a projectile, but if you move, you just can't deal consistent damage at all to the point it gets infuriating. It may sound like a good challenge of risk-reward, but I personally think it's just annoying. It makes killing enemies take way longer than they feel like they should. Now, I am on hard mode, so enemy stats are jacked up a bit, but I never felt that in any other of the gameplay styles that badly. And the combat, when doing it properly, just feels like a button masher. People call Skylanders a button masher, which, yeah, it can be, but I always felt like there was more strategy required in combat than mashing the Y button. Into Flying, since there's only 2 attacks, and the second one for Bowser at least, because that's my own sky vehicle, it felt really situational and often not worth it. It made me mash the hell out of A or Y, in this case, shut up. It's also always the same. The other 2 vehicles have some proper variation, but for some reason this one doesn't at all. Besides, once in the final boss, and once in the 3rd or 2nd level, I can't remember, where it just felt like the normal gameplay style. Great! Now this one, I actually don't know how to fix it at all. Maybe making it more Star Fox or Sin and Punishment. It might be better. It'll be more fun, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Star Fox. I don't know, without a massive overhaul in how the mode works to make them better, I personally don't know how to fix it. The others I could see small little fixes which would go a mile and make it more fun personally, but here, not really. Now, the land missions in this game are better than the flying missions, which, thank God, with it being the most prominent style in the game, it should be better than boring. It has 2 styles, field and racing, or at least that's what I'm calling them. They're both fine. I don't really have a preference as they feel very similar in quality. Racing segments are the one with the least drastic changes. One reason I might not be enjoying this as much is because I found you can basically snake in this game, which is interesting, but my brain makes me want to get the boost despite the fact that they may be slower. The controls are just basic accelerate, turn left, turn right, and drifting, which works. The only thing is that the speed feels too slow for the width of the track. Feels like the speed should be faster, especially with a name like Superchargers. So like, just make it so the cars move faster, or the width of the track is lesser, because that's really all you need, and it will make it a million times better. Also make sure all vehicles' secondary attack can actually hit the targets in this mode, because it makes this boss and enemies in this section really suck. Thanks. This does start feeling more appropriate later in the game, the speed, but I think that's just my brain getting used to it, not an actual enjoyment increase, I guess. I still think the overall increase will do good for the game. Secondly, you have the field-based style, which doesn't control weird, but it kind of does. You still have the basic controls of a regular driving section, but you point the stick in the direction you want to go. But since it doesn't just snap to a position, it always feels awkward to control initially due to the smoothing and the turning. With how the car moves, it doesn't feel the most appropriate, especially in a certain boss. In these sections, you can take Snake into extreme, which is really fun to pull off, if not awkward. I feel like tank controls would be all you need to make the field sections feel nicer. I genuinely think that might be enough. Now, I understand why it's not that way, as kids may have difficulty trying to understand the control scheme. Tank controls would be better and arguably make more sense since you have to press accelerate and would have a better challenge. It would also make it so you could turn around while being stationary, which is really annoying that you can't do it, especially during Captain Cannibal's boss fight where you have to fire chickens at him. This makes it more difficult to properly align the car, and it's annoying. Finally, the water missions, which have an arena/open area sections like land and a 2D submarine sections. Honestly, the field section is the best vehicle part in the game. It always feels more natural to control the submarine with the accelerate and turn directly, as there seems to be actual turning when you hold a direction. The arena one, you get basic movement from driving field, but with an additional dive, which you can do, and you can leap out of the water when you release a button. This is honestly just oddly fun to pull off consecutively and leap out of the water. I don't know why, it just kind of is. Except when it bunks out like this. Actually, that's really funny, never mind. The diving is where my issues come in. I always feel like I'm just following arrows or wandering aimlessly until I reach a goal in these. I never feel like I'm actually progressing outside of the first one of these sections due to it being the most unique. It makes it so when I do end them, it's just like, oh, cool, play certified victory. I much prefer the special little portal missions they have in terms of structure. So if throughout the level you have these portals which are only allowed by a certain vehicle type, and they have a unique objective to complete. And honestly, these are fun. The water type one I did was a sheep escort mission where you help each other progress, and it was better due to having a more defined objective and much different approach. I kind of wish the star missions were close to it, because that would have been so much funner having a unique objective every time. Diving also just has strange controls. You sink naturally and float when you hit a button, which I would prefer having a button for each ascending and descending, especially when attacking stops your vertical momentum. It would just be so much nicer if your vertical momentum wasn't halted while attacking. It just makes things feel less clunky, because when you feel like mashing the attack button because you're just sinking and kind of waiting, you just can't because you will stop descending. Generally, I feel like that having up and down movement both being tied to the buttons would make these sections feel so much nicer. And that is about 10 minutes about the vehicles. Oh god, that was too long, wasn't it? Bad, wasn't it? I was sorry. Okay then, that's strange. Anyway, yeah, I have no good transition back into the other stuff. The levels ideas of this game are actually quite cool in a lot of cases. Unfortunately, most of them are kind of underwhelming. For example, Cloudbreather Crag is the second level in this game with a dragon as the centerpiece. During the Land Star segment, you get to drive on the dragon, which is so cool, for 30 seconds, and then it's over. Turns out it's just a straight line. Why not have the boss fight keeping the thing that keeps the dragon chained down, so you have to drive up the dragon, reach the guy, and do damage, and he knocks you back, then fires more obstacles the more you break the seals or something. That boss sounds cool as hell, because you're driving on a dragon while doing it. Unfortunately, to me, it sounds like it would be better than any vehicle boss we have in this game, which is unfortunately, is most of them. Most of the bosses being in a vehicle kind of annoys me, because the bosses we have on land, no joke, maybe some of the best bosses in this series, even if undercooked in some aspects. A lot of the vehicle bosses either feel bun mashy or are just kind of annoying, which just makes them underwhelming as bosses overall. Land fights are either in Battle Brawl Island or the Titan Place. I believe every encounter in Battle Brawl is a boss, but the one I want to focus on is the final Spell Miser. I think it's a Spell Miser. Please say it's a Spell Miser. God damn it! For the second phase of the fight, it teleports you some snowy mountaintop with a mini little obstacle course. Then for phase 3, you get teleported back to the island. This sequence was so cool when I re-encountered it, and I got really excited for what they might do with it. I wanted more locations, or even just swapping the arena and giving different gimmicks throughout the fight. Like, wouldn't it be cool if the snow one had sliver controls and then the volcano one had meteors going onto the battlefield? There's no lava one, but just pretend. Or even just more platforming segments between them and more phases. This fight had so much more potential and could have been so much cooler. Like Sky Stones. Not gonna lie, despite the Halfstone combat returning, it's the worst version of Sky Stones. You know how I complained about Sky Stones being too simple before? Now it's too complicated and overly stretched out. And there's way too much strategy in only your deck picking. You have 20 cards in your deck, which is way too much considering, aside from your card amount and the health, not much has changed. It's still the same attack stat, health stat, sometimes a random power. And now you have a car which is meant to be powerful, and it kind of is. It's just trying to make it more complicated without actually adding more rows or adding just more stuff. It's just extending what's already there, which sounds good. Dang, you know what I mean. It just feels like how it drags since you can't actually skip the animations, which are kind of boring in comparison to PvZ Heroes. That's the only Hearthstone like I've played. On not having to skip stuff because I formatted this very well. You can't skip the cutscenes, but only at the academy. The cutscenes which I want to skip, because a lot of them are tutorials which you keep getting for a good while, are the ones you can't skip, and the ones that have story and plot relevance and objective relevance, you can. This is just a tad annoying. I just don't know why you can skip them, it's so strange. This little guy is back, and they're only slightly better than these balls. And finally, the final boss was underwhelming. This game had so much potential. I genuinely think this could have been the best Skylanders game if they just changed a few things and threw the air vehicles in bin. Core Skylanders gameplay may be the best it ever has. The levels have really cool ideas, and some do deliver them. 1. Cloudflight Glaze. That's the only one that fully delivers it. The vehicles are close to being really fun and actually being on the same level as the gameplay, nearly. But it wasn't. Oh, you want me to talk about racing, don't you? Okay, I'm gonna give you my very comprehensive thoughts on this game. Don't worry, you'll be here for ages. It's a West Mario Kart.